Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield, Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.
Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. Mottek On Money. Stay with us at 6 o'clock this evening, by the way, for the Way Home radio show and podcast presented by the Union Rescue Mission. I'll be back on the air this evening at 6 o'clock. Vice President of Philanthropy at URM, Richard Newcomb, will be joining me. And our special guest, a giant on the business scene here in Southern California, Lou Horn, President of CBRE here in Southern California, also Chairman of the Urban Land Institute. We'll be discussing the homeless issue at 6 o'clock this evening. Right now, Mottek On Money. Live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com, the on-demand Mottek On Money podcast, KBC.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. Mixed finish for stocks today with a blizzard of new readings on the economy today. Blizzard by comparison based on what we've been getting lately, which has been not too much. Tomorrow, we'll be getting a new reading on inflation, which we're told is the Fed's favorite gauge on inflation. The Dow coming in for a closing loss today of 32 points, the S&P 500 up 7, and the NASDAQ up 51. The Dow coming off its third highest close in Wall Street history. It got close to 48K this week, and just above 48K is the all-time high for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. We did get a new reading on weekly jobless claims hitting a 3-year low over the Thanksgiving holiday week. Another report from Challenger Grain Christmas showed its monthly tally of planned corporate layoffs falling back after a spike we saw in October, though year-to-date job cuts are at the highest seen since 2020. That was the pandemic year, as many of you remember. We'll get an update on what's happening on the job picture and local economy with Mark Wilbur, Chairman of Employers Group, former Associate Dean of the USC Marshall School of Business and founding member and former Chairman of the Los Angeles Business Federation. Mark Wilbur will be joining me live later this hour. The earnings parade continued as well, with the shares in Dollar General moving higher. After that, the retailer issued earnings and lifted its forecast for full-year sales growth. Kroger, the parent company of Ralph's, stock moving lower after the supermarket chain swung to a loss and missed analysts' sales targets. Watching what's happening on the geopolitical front as well, with President Trump in a standoff with the Venezuelan leader, Nicolas Maduro. Strikes near Venezuelan waters aimed at drug traffickers. Sanctions and a $50 million bounty have so far been unsuccessful in forcing Maduro to step down from power in Venezuela. We're watching the latest reports there. This as the U.S. military buildup continues in the Caribbean. The price of oil in all this holding fairly steady, just below $60 a barrel this week, right now at $59.72. Nearly a full year after the horrific and deadly devastation of the L.A. firestorms, more frustration and heartbreak over Los Angeles City fees in the rebuilding process, among other things. More break-ins in the San Fernando Valley. We'll get the latest on all of that later this hour from the Honorable Dennis ZINE, former L.A. City Council member and retired LAPD police sergeant. He'll be joining us live later this hour. But first, on your money, the markets, the economy, and really the whole works now. Joining us live, the one and only Ben Stein, for our occasional Frank and Stein conversation, which we do here as needed. Financial and political commentator Ben Stein, economist Ben Stein, author Ben Stein, game show host Ben Stein of Win Ben Stein's Money, an actor, too, playing basically himself in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, in one of the most famous scenes in American cinema, where he delivered an improvised lecture on U.S. trade policy in the 1930s, and one of the most famous scenes in American cinema. Yep, that Ben Stein. Ben Stein, good afternoon to you, sir.
How are you, my friend?
Wonderful. Happy holidays.
Good.
Wonderful to have you with us here on another busy news day, and love to get your thoughts on things here at the moment. How are you feeling, first of all?
Well, I feel pretty damn good considering I'm an old man. Wow, what Jesus. Sorry. This big, giant tour bus just ran a red light right towards us. Wow. Anyway, I feel pretty good. I almost got killed just now by a tour bus. I am feeling up as to the economy. An inspiration came to your humble self in the middle of the night. My father, I know you remember him very well, super famous economist, one of the main economic names in America. He used to tell me, no inflation lasts forever. And I was thinking about that. That is to say, our Federal Reserve has been killing us, choking us, strangling us with high interest rates. And they're doing it because I think they are unaware that the inflation will not last forever. No matter what they do, it's not going to last forever. And what we're seeing now is the ordinary American worker, homeowner, home seller, home buyer is being strangled by Federal Reserve mistakes, and all in the name of fighting an inflation which is not inevitably going higher. So let's have some optimism. This is not going to be an America that is killed by inflation. It could be killed by not killed or choked for a while, by serious mistakes in terms of monetary policy. But I wish that I'm not going to say any names. I wish that the people in charge over there on Constitution Avenue would realize there's no such thing as an inflation that doesn't end.
On the Air Live with Ben Stein, and we recall your father fondly, Herb Stein, of blessed memory, who was succeeded as chair of the Council of Economic Advisors by the one and only Alan Greenspan. That should also be noted. Tomorrow we'll be getting a new reading on inflation, and that's something the markets looks like we had a kind of a cautious day today ahead of that reading, which will be taken in very seriously by the Federal Reserve, which will be meeting already next week, and it's widely expected the Fed will be cutting short-term interest rates at the meeting next week. What do you think is going to happen tomorrow on inflation and the latest reading we got on the job front and what the Fed might do next week?
I think what we've learned is that despite the choking of the economy by the Federal Reserve, the economy is still very strong, extremely strong. Mr. Trump said yesterday or the day before that we have the strongest economy in the world, and I think he's right. And God bless him. But really, the Federal Reserve should look at history. History is a very, very wonderful thing if you know it. And we know very, very well that the giant mistakes that have really hurt America, or really hurt Germany, have caused catastrophic damage, have come from the monetary authorities. We are not going to get a clear signal from the data tomorrow or the next day or next week or any day. What we know is a slow, steady growth in the money supply, no effort at heroics by choking the economy. Those are not going to help. The huge, giant crises of the 20th century were caused by fairly serious, catastrophic, I would say, monetary policy mistakes. We would not have had a Hitler. We would not have a Stalin. We would not have had any of these terrible things if there had been steady, consistent, decent monetary policy. Let's not try to show off. I don't want to say any names again. Let's not try to show off slow, steady contraction of the money supply or slow down in growth. Please, 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 Mr. and Mrs. Federal Reserve Chairman, don't try to break the bank.
You're live with the one and only Ben Stein, and you gave that famous lecture on the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, put the whole class to sleep in that famous scene in the movie. And was that finally repealed, by the way? Whatever happened to the Smoot-Hawley? And what about the tariff situation fast forward to today?
It was eventually repealed, and I don't know why Mr. Trump had to put on these tariffs. I love him. He's an amusing guy, charming guy, very aggressive guy, great sense of humor, but we did not need these tariffs. The tariffs don't really do anything for anyone. He was trying to say, look, I'll make the federal government self-sustaining by collecting billions, trillions, whatever they say in Austin Powers, by tariffs. No, let's not try that game. Let's not do anything sudden. The tariffs do not help anyone. They're not a miracle cure for anything. Please, Mr. Trump, we love you. You're a great guy. You've got a great sense of humor. But let's not show off again with something like the tariffs. Let's get out of that marsh, out of that swamp. Let's just go back to normal, sensible, grown-up behavior.
All right, if you could put your attorney hat on for just a moment. You're also an attorney, and we're waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on the legality of the president's tariffs. So what do you think is going to happen, which this ruling could come down at any minute? And if it's ruled against the president, then the Treasury may be facing a $1 trillion refund bill at some point.
Well, that would be nice. I'd like to have that $1 trillion. I could do a lot of fun things with that. But I don't know what the Supreme Court rule. The Supreme Court ruling will be, I should say. I have been following the Supreme Court for all of my lifetime, and I think, to suggest that the Supreme Court will say the president exceeded his authority. I could be completely wrong about that. I don't know why the president did it in the first place. Someone who's not an economist, who doesn't know economic history, approached him and said, Mr. President, I'm going to give you a pain-free way of paying off the deficit. Here it is, tariffs. I don't think it's a good idea. It has screwed up trade policy. It has screwed up importing and exporting. As I say, let's not try to do anything dramatic. We love you, Mr. President. Well, I do. I guess a lot of people don't. But anyway, please don't do anything dramatic, Mr. President. And Supreme Court, let's not have you do anything dramatic. Maybe if you want to say we can't do this, maybe say, Mr. President, repeal them gradually. Don't try to repeal them overnight. Repeal them gradually, and let's have a gradual approach to everything.
All right.
And I'll back up and I'll add something more to that. I really don't like the president having the U.S. Armed Forces machine gunning Venezuelan boats. Yes, those guys are terrible, terrible guys, no doubt about it. But I don't want to see a war in South America. I mean,
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield, Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.
Hi, I'm Drew Barrymore, and I want to tell you how you can help to support the life-saving work of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. When you give, you're helping ensure families never receive a bill from St. Jude for treatment, travel, housing, or food, so they can focus on helping their child live. This holiday, help St. Jude give children the greatest gift, a chance at a lifetime.
This holiday, help St. Jude find more cures for more children. Donate now at musicgives.org.
Welcome to Next Row. I'm your host, Vernon Davis. Okay, y'all, thank you. That's enough. Please welcome Ryan Sickler.
There's nothing that's made me feel better at my worst than laughing. It's changed my whole life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Char Jackson. Would you rather an Oscar and make $5 million or no Oscar and make $50 million?
Give me that Oscar.
Oh, my goodness.
Next Roll isn't about what's next. It's about why they do it.
That's powerful, man.
Next Roll with Vernon Davis. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
We have had enough senseless wars. I don't think we need any more. I would not want to send my friends, children, or my friends to war against Mr. Maduro. He's a horrible guy. He's a terrible, terrible guy. Would not want, well, my son's no longer living, but I would not want my son to go to war against Mr. Maduro.
All right.
He's a bad guy, but I don't want any Americans to die over it.
Venezuela, of course, very closely allied with China and Cuba, which is could be coming to the forefront again at some point. What do you think is going to happen here with Venezuela? And ultimately, of course, Marco Rubio is Cuban American and part of the Cuban exile community in South Florida. And we've been waiting for big changes in Cuba since the fall of the Soviet Union back in the early 1990s. What do you see playing out here?
Well, the communists have their hooks into Venezuela very tightly. Once the communists take over a country, they rarely are kicked out of it. It has happened a lot in Eastern Europe. I had a super smart professor of foreign policy in college, really, really good teacher, who said there's only one country in the world surrounded by hostile communist states, and that's Russia. And he was right. Everybody in Eastern Europe hated them, and the Chinese hated them. But I don't want us to go to war over it. I don't want United States boys from Van Nuys or from Encino to be sent off to die fighting in the jungles of Venezuela. It's not going to be a big deal to us one way or the other. Yes, they have a heck of a lot of oil, really, really a lot of oil. We can get oil anywhere we want it. We don't need to go to war. I think provoking Maduro, not a great idea. I think killing Venezuelans, even if they're criminals, thoroughgoing, horrible criminals, I don't want the U.S. to go to war over them.
On the live with Ben Stein, and a lot of the things we talked about, some of the reasons why we're seeing precious metals spike to record highs this year. What a year it's been for so many reasons, but the price of gold hitting record highs up around $4,500, silver getting close to $60 an ounce. Did you ever think we'd see these prices for precious metals, and what's happening there?
I never thought I would see them. I've only done a little tiny bit of speculating in precious metals. It did not work out well for me. I don't think I'll do it anymore. I'm an old man. I don't think I'm going to do much of anything anymore. But if people want to play that game, more power to them. My humble thought, do what Mr. Buffett does, buy the American industrial model. It's a great, great model. We're very blessed to have the access to stocks that own American industry. You can just stick with that, and they don't have to play that kind of precious metals game. I'm often approached by people who say, what do you think about Bitcoin? What do you think about any of that? What shall we call them?
Cryptos.
BS investments, cryptos. If Mr. Buffett thinks they're bad, I think they're bad. Before he entered immortality, Charlie Munger said that they were rat poison squared. I'm sure you remember that very well, Frank. If Mr. Munger, a super, super smart guy, if he thought that, I'm with him.
On the live with the one and only Ben Stein, and thanks for sharing your wisdom on all of these matters here. Any other thoughts, Ben Stein, about what's happened this year, 2025, and the outlook for 26?
I will go back to what I said a few minutes ago, Frank, which is no inflation lasts forever. I think if you're putting your chips on the inflation lasting forever, you better be prepared for some bad days, bad weeks, bad months. I, your humble servant, probably have way too much real estate for an 81-year-old man, and I wish now I did not have so much of that, but even that will change too. In the long run, Southern California real estate will do great. Why? We have the best climate in the world. We have an incredibly great network of roads. We have wonderful human beings. Let's just stick with that. Let's not try to do supercharging acrobatic tricks. Stay with what has always been good in Southern California, not always every year, but over long periods of time. Real estate, stock in the great, great motion picture studios that control so much of the world's entertainment. Try that. But also another piece of information your humble servant will pass on. Start saving really early. Start saving when you're in high school. Start saving when you're in college. Have a nest egg right away. The economy can turn around and bite you, no matter how wonderful you think the economy is, no matter how wonderful you think you've done, it can turn around and bite you, and it will. So have lots and lots of reserve. Take it real easy and real cautious. As my sister says, take it easy, breezy. It's a long slide. And I really don't want to see anyone I love bitten by a snake turning around and biting you.
On the line with Ben Stein, and speaking of real estate, I know you spend a lot of time in Malibu. What a year it's been for Malibu and the Palisades and Altadena following the horrific fires. We're going to talk about more about that later this hour, but I hope your place was okay in Malibu, and what are your thoughts about the rebuilding in that area?
I love Malibu. I don't think there are many people on the planet who love Malibu any more than I do. Our house has a wonderful sweeping, spectacular view out over the ocean. It's a very modest house compared to houses of genuinely rich people. And when I walk in the door and look through the windows, which are floor to ceiling throughout, and see the ocean, I just think, thank you, God, for America. Thank you, God, for Malibu. Thank you, God, for Los Angeles County. It's great. I guess the fires have never burned me badly. I've had a little teeny bit of scorching. Mostly it's been safe. God's gift to me, one of many gifts to me. I'm really, really happy with Malibu. And I'll just tell you something you may or may not care about. There's a Pavilions Market in Trancas, way far west in Malibu. When you walk in there, it's like walking into what LA was like 50 years ago. Friendly people, no scary, dangerous people, just happy, friendly people who remember me from when I was first there, certainly 50 years ago. And I'm happy to be there in what is, in essence, a beautiful, peaceful, small town overlooking the ocean.
Well, we'll let you get back to enjoying it. God bless you, Ben Stein. Thank you very much for coming to the line here. And watch out for those tour buses, by the way. And thank goodness you're okay. And isn't that something? Wow. Ben Stein.
And God bless you, Frank. And I will talk to you soon. I hope we can talk again before Christmas.
Yes.
But if we don't, God bless you and have a Merry Christmas to everyone who's listening.
Likewise.
Or watching or hearing everything. God bless you, sir.
Likewise, Ben Stein, thank you very much for joining us live here on Mottek On Money, 790 KBC.
Thank you, sir. God bless you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Mottek On Money continues, 790 KBC. Good afternoon. Mixed finish for stocks today with the Dow down 32 points at the closing bell, back to 47,851. The Dow coming off its third highest close in history. The S&P 500 up 7 at 68.57, and the NASDAQ managed a closing gain of 51 points at 23,505. The yield in the 10-year note has popped back up to 4.10%. That's the one that impacts the fixed-rate mortgage rates out there. The volatility index pulling back 2% today. The price of gold hovering at around 4,236 and change. Silver at 57.42. Platinum at 1,658.90. Checking the cryptos now, we see a Bitcoin down about 300, back to 92,168. Ethereum at 3,135. Solana is at 139. And Doge at the moment at 14 cents. And now the latest news on 790 KBC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC, turning from Wall Street to Main Street, indeed your street. We got some important readings on the economy today in the form of the weekly jobless claims, hitting a 3-year low over the Thanksgiving holiday week. Another report out from Challenger Gray and Christmas, that outplacement company, showed the monthly tally of planned corporate layoffs falling back after a spike we saw in October. But the year-to-date job cuts, the highest seen since the year 2020. That was the pandemic year. Joining us live now is Mark Wilbur, chairman of Employers Group, former associate dean of the USC Marshall School of Business, and founding member and former chairman of the Los Angeles Business Federation. Mark Wilbur, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thanks for having me on, Frank. Always great to be on.
Wonderful to have you with us. Hope you're enjoying the holiday season. And certainly these are important readings ahead of the big Fed meeting next week. They'll be taking all that in, plus the inflation number that'll be coming out first thing tomorrow morning. Give us your assessment of things here at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting, looking at all the different reports. I mean, there's this side of it on the layoffs, which I thought the Challenger report was very interesting. But I also saw, from Bloomberg, the U.S. jobless claims fell to a 3-year low over Thanksgiving. So most people would look at that and go, how can that be? You have layoffs going up, but you have jobless claims falling to.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Skip the traffic and ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express, your direct $2 base fare round-trip ride from the Culver City Transit Center at Westfield, Culver City. Buses run on weekend game days every 20 minutes starting 3 hours before kickoff, with return service beginning at the start of the third quarter. And guess what else? We're hiring. Join our team and help keep the community moving. Visit culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500 for info on your next ride to the game or maybe your next job.
Hi, I'm Drew Barrymore, and I want to tell you how you can help to support the life-saving work of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. When you give, you're helping ensure families never receive a bill from St. Jude for treatment, travel, housing, or food, so they can focus on helping their child live. This holiday, help St. Jude give children the greatest gift, a chance at a lifetime.
This holiday, help St. Jude find more cures for more children. Donate now at musicgives.org.
Welcome to Next Row. I'm your host, Vernon Davis. Okay, y'all, thank you. That's enough. Please welcome Ryan Sickler.
There's nothing that's made me feel better at my worst than laughing. It's changed my whole life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Char Jackson. Would you rather an Oscar and make $5 million or no Oscar and make $50 million?
Give me that Oscar.
Oh, my goodness.
Next Roll isn't about what's next. It's about why they do it.
That's powerful, man.
Next Roll with Vernon Davis. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The 3-year low. Well, that's part of it is a mix. A lot of companies today, especially if they're getting laying off, getting rid of people at that higher level, they have separation agreements oftentimes that go into place, and they do that instead of having the person go on unemployment, because unemployment is not going to be able to cover anything for an executive at that level. So it's typically a separation with a higher level direct pay from the company as a settlement. So that's where you're going to have that gap, because those two reports look juxtaposed, if you will, and don't make a lot of sense collectively. But the other thing I was thinking about, Frank, today was this, and I don't know if you want to talk about this, but the California is facing an $18 billion deficit at a minimum this year, and $35 billion per year for the rest of the decade. So that puts us at, over $200 billion. That's not good. I mean, that's not helpful.
No, that is definitely. Thanks for highlighting that, and that's certainly something that deserves a lot of attention here. The fiscal situation there in Sacramento, and so we definitely need to pay attention to that. On the job front, though, they've been calling this a low hire, low fire environment, kind of a stagnant job situation. What is really happening here in the Los Angeles area, based on your assessment here?
Well, I think Los Angeles is pretty similar to the rest of the country. It kind of reminds me, Frank, of the 80s. You remember when, computers were starting to come out, and software, and Microsoft was just a baby, and all these things. And people thought, oh my God, everybody's going to lose their job. But, they end up getting displaced, and then they end up getting rehired in other positions and other roles. As the economy roars on, it actually created jobs, didn't diminish them. I think we're in that state, Frank, with AI. I think AI is very similar to those times. It really harkens the same kind of sentiment where, companies are taking advantage of making some layoffs that, maybe they can get by with AI, maybe they can implement. But I don't know about you, Frank. Every time I get on with a customer service and it's AI, it's a disaster. We've still got a ways to go with AI. It's certainly far from being refined. And I think people are figuring that out. But again, eventually that will get figured out, and there will be displacement and resettlement in positions by people finding other ways. And I think you're also, because of AI, you're going to see a lot more entrepreneurs now. I think there's going to be a lot more people that can, they're all trained up from the pandemic, and now they can really do more with less, leaning on AI.
What's getting your attention in the AI world? And nowadays, you don't even know if you're talking to a human being or what you're talking about. That certainly things have advanced, but you're right; it can get very, very frustrating when you hit a dead end, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, and then it just hangs up on you. That happened to me the other day, Frank. I was like, wait a minute, how can you just hang up on me? What just happened? So anyway, everybody's experiencing that right now. And I think, what I'm seeing is that people are trying to figure it out. You see a lot of companies out there trying to educate, offerings out there, hey, become an AI genius. There's a lot of hacks out there that are trying to take advantage of that situation as well. But there is a lot of good and valuable things that, repetitive, processes, things where people, especially in anything that's digital, the financial industries, a lot of the customer service industries, a lot of these things. But you know what? You still have to have people go fix rooms. People still have to have trades. People still have to, maybe Optimus at some point, Tesla's robot will be able to do plumbing as well. But, I don't think we're quite there yet. So I think there's still a lot of roles that people play. And I think we're still in that phase, again, just like the 80s when computers were coming out. Remember the first laptops, Frank? The first laptops weighed like 50 pounds.
Right.
So
just
anyway,
like the cell phones,
the
bricks that we used to have, those Motorola bricks, used to schlep those around all over town. What about what's happening here as far as hiring is concerned, or firing? Are you seeing examples here, significant examples of entire parts of companies being displaced by AI, so-called artificial employees? There's a whole as we've had on this program in the past, where artificial employees are actually trained somehow. There is that kind of an operation that's happening, that's available. Any other examples where you're seeing AI have a significant impact?
Well, and I think where you're starting to see it is people that have the money and wherewithal to spend on it. So you look at like United and Delta, your ability to go travel plan with them is definitely better today than it was just a couple of years ago. And while they haven't completely figured it out, and that's really going to start impacting some travel businesses. Again, that personalized service, that person who customizes a trip for you, your airfare, your hotels, your reservations for restaurants, things like that, that's not going away. But the ability for AI to intervene in that and make those reservations and make those things will allow those kinds of agents to do more. And so that means it'll be tougher to get a job in that industry because with less people, they'll be able to do more work. So travel industry is definitely one of those areas. Anything that's digital, Frank. Anything. So I look at this as like, the financial industries, any type of online industries. You look at warehousing, things like that, where Amazon, and several companies out there where they have these auto pick centers, these giant warehouses where they pick and deliver, and it finally gets to a truck, and then a human being actually takes over from there. Amazon has been working to get, to limit and lower their employment in those warehouses year over year over year, and they're getting smarter. That's why they have AWS as a subsidiary. And so these are some of the things that I'm seeing. And you can also see it, in the stock market. People are starting to figure out like what companies are going to win, which companies are going to lose.
Right. Well, we'll let you get set for the big reading on inflation first thing tomorrow morning. And then next week, we'll be getting the decision on interest rates from Fed Chairman Jerome Powell in one of his last big official duties. Looks like he's going to be replaced early in the new year. That's the indication. So a lot more to take in. And in the meantime, we wish you and everybody there a wonderful holiday season, Mark, and wish we had more time as always. And we'll be in touch in the next couple of weeks here and look forward to speaking with you again very soon. Mark WILBUR, Chairman of Employers Group, based right here in Southern California, former Associate Dean of the USC Marshall School of Business and founding member and former Chairman of LA BizFed. Mark, it's always great to have you with us. Thank you very much for taking the call this afternoon.
Thanks so much, Frank, and best to you and your staff.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Mark WILBUR, live with us here on 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. Good afternoon. Nearly a full year after the horrific and deadly devastation of the LA area firestorms, more frustration and heartbreak this week over city fees. People are still waiting to see whether Los Angeles will waive reconstruction permit fees in the devastated areas. Let's bring in the Honorable Dennis ZINE now, former LA City Council member and retired LAPD Police Sergeant. Dennis ZINE is on the line. Good afternoon, Dennis ZINE.
Good afternoon to you, Frank, and the listeners of KABC Radio.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Always great to have you live with us here on the air. And you've seen a lot during your service to the City of Angels and those city council chambers. But it was pretty heartbreaking to see what happened there this week. Give us your reaction to what's happened here with all this ongoing uncertainty and frustration in this rebuilding process.
Well, it's, Frank, like a seesaw. One day it looks pretty good, and the next day, disaster. It's a seesaw back and forth. And you've got the controversy that continues with the fire department. They want to blame the firefighters. They want to blame the LA City Fire Department. They now have a new chief who is a very professional. He will be able to handle that. But the controversy, the dollars that we're talking about are very expensive. But the fact of the matter is a fire occurred, tragedy occurred, and now the finger pointing goes. Meanwhile, there's many people, and I met with a gentleman yesterday who has a residence in the Palisades. His house burned to the ground, and he's going through the same merry-go-round. So it's been a long time. They're waiting patiently. They're running out of patience, and the merry-go-round at City Council continues. Point the finger here, point the finger there, blame this, blame that. Meanwhile, the residents that pay their taxes, that obey the law, that respected all the rights and privileges, they're the ones who are the victims of this merry-go-round. Who's going to pay? When are you going to pay? Are you going to pay? And then Edison comes in with their issues. Not that Edison has anything to do with the city of Los Angeles, but everyone's pointing the fingers when it comes to filling the dollars to make whole what these people lost. Everything that they own, their home, their belongings, their possessions, the history of the family, it's all gone. And the bickering back and forth with the members of the council, it's very sad. In a city like Los Angeles, when you say the City of the Angels, you think they'd be more willing to help, but there doesn't seem to be that will to help. It's just merry-go-round and frustration. And I'd hate to be in that environment because you look at it and say, when's this going to end? When are we going to get back to normalcy? And it doesn't seem to be in the near future at all.
Before this firestorm catastrophe, the other big disaster occurred, more than 30 years ago now, the Northridge earthquake back in 1994, and then under the leadership of then the Honorable Richard J. Riordan, the mayor of Los Angeles, and under Pete Wilson, right? And in those days, it seemed there had been much more urgency in rebuilding the damaged areas. Under Mayor Riordan's leadership back in those days, freeways got rebuilt, and the guy from the State Office of Emergency Services was on the air all the time with updates on a very aggressive rebuilding of all of the damaged areas. We're not seeing that this time around. What are your thoughts about bringing more urgency to this rebuilding here?
Well, the people who are suffering are the taxpayers, the residents, the folks, the businesses. But as far as urgency, it doesn't appear that all the council members have that sense of urgency. I know there are some of them that have that urgency. Unfortunately, it's not universal. And when you have the mayor, which he's trying to survive with the controversies that affect that office, and with the dysfunctional aspect of many of the council members, the DSA members, who just a couple of days ago said we don't want the police to use anything when it comes to crowd control other than their hands, or they don't want to use the devices that they're now trained to use to quell disturbances. It's really false on the leaders of the city of Los Angeles. And until they get their act together and figure out, you got the city attorney also involved, pointing the finger in that arena. So it's really, I could really describe it very simply as dysfunction. And I'm sure the listeners who are impacted by that, who live in that area, who are trying to get their lives back in order, are very, very frustrated. Who's going to come to their aid? Who's going to help bring this matter to closure so they can get back to where they were to have a lifestyle that is comfortable instead of what they're doing now? They're living at friends, they're living in hotels, they're renting houses. I mean, all the structure that they had, all the stability that they had is washed away. And the council, with their hocus pocus attitude, they don't come up with it. They can't decide because you've got people up there that just don't care. And that's the problem. If they did care, we would have this resolved a long time ago, because this devastation is unprecedented. And it like I say, I call it a merry-go-round because it's not stopping.
Well, Mr. Leadership there, the Honorable Dennis ZINE, live with us here on the air. Turning to crime, the San Fernando Valley continues to get hit with these residential burglaries. And I don't know if you saw that one report. It looks like burglars are using hidden cameras nowadays to spy on people to get an idea of when people come and go. Give us an update on what's happening.
Well, Frank, they target a neighborhood. They target a home in the neighborhood, and we know the wealthy areas. And they target those areas, and they set up these cameras, and then they have a surveillance. They will know the pattern that's established by the people. They leave at 8 o'clock. They come back at 4 o'clock. The home's not there. There's no one occupying the home at that time. Then they strike. But we've got this continuing problem. We've got the situation happening with car theft now, where they break into cars because they have sophisticated devices that bypass the alarms. And that's what's happening. So it become more sophisticated for the criminal element. And the good taxpayer throws her hands up and says, we're doing everything we're told to do. And it's not working, because the criminal seems to find ways to overcome whatever resistance is put in place to prevent them from carrying on that criminal act, whether it's a home burglary or stealing the car. But if you look in your neighborhood, the best thing I say, I've said this for years, is neighbors watching neighbors. Neighbors watching neighbors is one of the most wonderful alarm systems you can have, because when your neighbors see someone come by and they don't belong there, they call 911, they get the police out there, they apprehend. But make friends with your neighbors. I have in my neighborhood, everybody's very close, watch over each other, and we have virtually a crime-free neighborhood because we always got our eyes open, watching for what's happening on the streets and the sidewalks in our community.
All right, and what's your gut feeling? And it's hard to believe that this is even up for a debate. Is crime up or down?
Well, there's been a report that the statistics that they're publishing are not realistic, they're not accurate, that they're fudging some of the numbers, and that's one of the problems. Until we report as we used to within, especially the Los Angeles Police Department, the numbers, they're not putting out the numbers that they used to do as far as the categories and how the crime is going up or down. I know that the number of officers is not increasing any significant level, so without that, that's a problem. And with the anti-council members, not all of them, but many are joining that anti-police mentality, the public becomes the victim. So while crime continues, I would question the statistics they're publishing. I do know that homicides are up this year over last year, year to date. They are up. The other categories, I can't give you a calling because the numbers we don't have a lot of confidence in as far as being published.
The Honorable Dennis ZINE, thank you very much, Dennis ZINE, for taking the call here. Former Los Angeles City Council member, longtime LAPD sergeant with 50-plus years of service to the City of Angels, retired now. And Dennis ZINE, we wish you and all of your family and friends and everyone in law enforcement a very beautiful holiday season, and thank you very much for all of the important updates.
Thank you, Frank, and have a good weekend as it's coming up next after tomorrow, weekend time.
That's right, and the year is coming to a close here. Hard to believe, and appreciate every time you're on the air live with us here. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5, and I'll be back on the air at 6 o'clock this evening on the Way Home radio show and podcast presented by the Union Rescue Mission. Special guest tonight, Lou Horn from CBRE. That and more straight ahead, 790 KABC Los Angeles.
Headed to SoFi Stadium? Ride the Culver City Bus Line 99, the SoFi Express. Just $2 base fare for a round trip from Westfield, Culver City on weekend game days. We're hiring too. Learn more at culvercitybus.com or call 310-253-6500.